You light our homes. Keep us warm.
You help us explore, innovate, and achieve the unthinkable.
You are everywhere.
Yet, sometimes out of reach.
You move us forward and bring us together.
And together, we're on a journey towards the future of energy.
So what will it look like?
It's hard to say, but we know it will be sustainable and abundant.
We're already on our way.
With a common purpose, each of us playing our part.
At Deloitte, we're connecting every bright mind, every organization, every startup, every innovator.
Every citizen, CEO, and regulator.
Making this future happen won't be easy, so we're developing practical solutions.
And a clear roadmap to help our clients on their way.
We'll keep making those connections
Each step well planned, moving forward together.
to make our new energy future a reality. Let's connect for a new energy future.
Welcome, everyone. I'd like to welcome my guests. Welcome, Anastasia, who joined us remotely. It's a great pleasure to conduct a panel connected with education, with building awareness. I represent the Polish Academy of Sciences, the CASU Center, the conversion of renewable energy. In addition, I'm a coordinator of a group, education, as part of the Hydrogen Agreement, where we have the pleasure to work on strategic goals so that by 2030 we'll have a specialized group of professionals who will service all the value chain when it comes to hydrogen. And the first question goes to Professor Kaczmarek from the Gdańsk Polytechnic, Gdańsk University of Technology, who will tell us about recruitment for a new faculty, which is hydrogen technology and electromobility. Professor, what convinced you to open this new field of study connected with technologies which are so new here? Not all academic centers have such courage to go in that direction. Courage, I think that's the key point. Yeah. Simply, we've realized, or simply we have to realize that when a new faculty is opened, when new study programs offered, new content in education, then in this process, three entities are essential. A trio of actors. So you need to have industry, the companies that will be on the receiving end, who will hire our graduates. We also have R&D, scientific institutions, which will give us the possibility of education, of creating certain, of checking out certain new ideas, and so on. And the third element is, of course, the student who will want to risk of starting studies in this area. And of course, this is at the point when certain companies, where the state supports the fact that this technology is worthwhile, that professionals will be needed, that remuneration in the field will be quite high. A little bit of introduction about the Gdańsk University of Technology, the campus, one of the most beautiful in Europe. If you take a look at these old buildings, yes, they are quite impressive. We have three divisions which have decided to organize this new field of study. Here we have the Faculty of Chemistry as one of the leaders. Then we have Electronics, Communications, and IT, because we need all those technologies. All technologies these days have to be supported by those. And the third faculty participating in creation is electrotechnology and automation. Here we have their headquarters, both modern ones, and rather historic ones, and probably the chemistry faculty has this most historic building, as does the electrotechnology and automation department. So this also illustrates that both experience is our advantage, but we also look with pleasure, with hope into the future. Now, to propose something new, of course, we need quite a path, quite a long path to do that. We need to ask questions: what sort of characteristics our graduates should have. That's why we've had a lot of meetings with representatives of industry. And here are a few short slides regarding working meetings, where we were trying to point out what we require from the future student. We were able to create a program. It's an interdisciplinary field of study. That's why it requires quite a bit of work, so it all clicks. But I'll move to concrete solutions. If we were to take a look, we have this new faculty, hydrogen technology, electromobility. Of course, for it all to work, we need certain facilities, certain background for all of that. We have some pictures from our labs, which allow us on one hand to conduct scientific studies, and more about that later. And then based on this research and those studies, we can educate our our teaching staff, research staff, and based on that, we can offer our students up-to-date knowledge. If you're interested in specific courses we offer as part of this course, perhaps it is a good beginning for discussion, whether this is optimum offer, or whether from your point of view, we should pay attention to some other elements. Nevertheless, we would like the graduate to be a specialist who will be able to deal with widely understood hydrogen technology. So on one hand, production of hydrogen, then transport, of course, which is quite an issue these days, how to transport that hydrogen, both safely and inexpensively. And then use of hydrogen, that is various types of fuel cells, new materials, which on one hand will aid in effective production of hydrogen, and on the other hand will aid in its effective consumption. We would, of course, like these graduates to be specialists with wide spectrum of abilities, with truly interdisciplinary character, because it is an interdisciplinary field, as testifies the cooperation of the three faculties that cooperate here. And here we have some examples of subjects that are required from the student to be passed. Some of these perhaps you know from other areas of study, but here we have this interdisciplinary character. We need to have certain basis in order to go into detail later and develop this hydrogen technology in detail. Now, I'm not going to go through the list of subjects, but summing up, all in all, we have over 2,500 hours which the student has to spend in the walls of the Polytechnic, plus own work, plus work on thesis, etc. So as far as number of hours is going to be more than presented here, this 2,500, plus the student as part of the 7 semesters of study will get 210 points of ECTS. This is from the Bologna system, and they're quite important for the students because they are useful in exchange programs, student exchange programs. So by offering such field of study, we are also open to cooperation with other universities, teaching centers, both in the country and abroad. Currently, the Polytechnic joined this enhanced program of European technological universities, leading ones, and new possibilities open up. Our students are able to leave for a semester or two. It's an expansion of an Erasmus Plus program. So the student, instead of knowledge, technological knowledge, can also obtain certain soft skills, as we call them. So knowledge of foreign languages, ability to work in interdisciplinary teams, international teams. These are all values that in a homogeneous academia are very difficult to teach. Here we have some more examples of possibilities of professional experience which the students will be able to participate in. Because as I've said, we've conducted talks with our industrial sector. Maybe I'll skip through some slides, but here I have a list that is prepared. I'll also show you a brief movie presenting companies which offers an offer of professional experience, of training for our students. The second part of the name. Aside from hydrogen technologies, you have electromobility. That's why a lab was created. Before electrical vehicles became popular, we already had tested how to charge in an optimum way various types of cars. We have some pictures here, some photos. So I've mentioned companies which offered assistance in this type of education. I'm not going to go through them in detail, but you can see the list, quite a range. So I can say that what we want to offer to two entities, that is on one hand companies, we want to be able to provide them with well-educated graduates who in, let's say, three and a half years will appear in your companies, maybe even sooner, because students after 5th, 6th term will probably apply to you asking for practical experience, training. And of course, these practices are supposed to prepare the students for future work. So they are to learn something new, something which is currently being used in companies, which companies work on. And they're supposed to teach them working in teams. And here we count on your cooperation. And of course, I wanted to underline that the teaching staff as well needs to keep learning as well. We cooperate here. We make it possible for our teachers to learn at other foreign institutions, also here in the country as well. So our lecturers, our teachers definitely need to continue to develop their skills. That's obvious. A couple of final slides. I don't want to run over time. Just continuation of my thought for education to be at a certain level so that you are satisfied with the people who come to work for you. We need also high level of scientific research. Here we have some examples. We have dedicated labs dedicated to these technologies, labs of functional materials which deal mostly with materials for production of hydrogen. And here we have various types of approaches which are practiced. Everything is well documented, everything is measured. All the materials which we are trying to manufacture, both in long-term and short-term cycles, various experiments, work in high temperatures, low temperatures, optimization of manufacturing, and then operation in those more, let's call them friendly temperatures. Because we know very often we talk about very high temperatures in hydrogen, over 1,000 degrees or so. So here we are trying to lower this temperature threshold, about 600, 800 degrees, which are more friendly for a typical human being. But that, of course, it is a technological challenge. So these types of experiments are being conducted.
And we have access to the devices that make it possible for us to look inside all sorts of sensors. So we can look into the fuel cells. We can see how these structures look when different production methods and mechanisms of operations occur to ensure that we can slow down the degradation of materials. So these kinds of materials are okay. And we can experiment trying to understand what happens in those structures. A separate issue is that of storage and transportation of hydrogen that I've already touched upon. And again, we've been carrying out research on how to optimize the process of storing and transporting of hydrogen. This is a classical approach, but of course you can try to capture this, to fix it in a different substance so that you can transport it easier, and then of course you would have to again free it from that substance later on and recover it in a recovery unit. So that is a basis for transforming the knowledge that we have onto the programs of our studies, onto the curricula, so that our students can acquire it. I guess that's about the last slide from me. Thank you very much for your attention. Another question from me goes to Anastasia. You are a European agency whose task is to promote and develop vocational training in the European Union. You are the center of information. Could you please share with us your experience concerning microcredentials? They say that you never stop learning, that it's a long life process, but we somehow need to analyze the history of acquiring competencies. So my question is, what are the main components that are for introducing microcredentials?
Welcome from my side, from Cedefop. I'm calling from Thessaloniki, Greece. I wanted to tell you that our agency, Cedefop, is the European Center for the Development of Vocational Training. So a key responsibility of our agency is actually to analyze trends in VET, in skills and qualifications that are spanning both policies and systems, and to provide a comparative analysis. Within this context, we have undertaken a new study on microcredentials, for which I am here with you today. And the idea is that we wanted to understand better what is the role of microcredentials in facilitating learning for employment as part of its Future of Ed agenda. Of course, within study, we would like to offer some new knowledge on the characteristics of microcredentials, their added value for individual learners, for employees, for employers. But we need to understand what are microcredentials, because they are not new. They have came about as a result of the digital age and the rise of massive open online courses. And only recently they became, let's say, a very important phenomenon. But we have realized within our Cedefop study that many European countries do not really understand the term. They even refer to it as a certificate for short learning format, and they are actually using various terms like micro-certifications, badges, partial qualifications, supplementary qualifications, and even module certificates. What I already heard today with regards to the hydrogen sector, which I'm not an expert, of course, shows me that, as the other panelists just mentioned before, that this is an interdisciplinary field that actually suggests that employees in these sectors need to adjust their knowledge, their skills and competencies in order to remain working within the relevant sector. And this means that these employees will need to catch up with the changes. And what are the drivers? The first and the most important thing is the fourth industrial revolution. This is characterized by advanced technologies such as artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, the Internet of Things. And in this setting, people need to learn how to use technologies, not only in existing jobs, but also in new sectors and new specializations that are created by the technological advance. So in this context, microcredentials are issued by public and private providers, such as large companies. Even they are offered in online learning platforms. And in this way, they can help, let's say, workers upskill. A second and very important driver is, of course, the digital learning, the individualized learning. And our Cedefop study shows that microcredentials allow employees to make career progresses or changes by enabling them to combine learning in a flexible manner. And the last driver, if I may say so, is this important aspect of globalization of competencies in labor markets. In this setting, I would say that international vendor certificates are becoming very important, and they are becoming actually industry standards. And the sought after certificates have actually become those that set, let's say, the important standards for competencies. So within that setting, there are different drivers that enable microcredentials to emerge. But of course, there are many questions still to answer, like, for example, is there a risk of overregulating the continuing education market? And how will funding or accreditation or even certification and recognition standards will evolve? So we hope that Cedefop research will try to give some answers to these questions.
Thank you very much. Another question from me. In what way micro-credentials are combined with general qualification systems and credentials in Europe? How do they integrate with other certifications?
Yes, well, actually, in Europe, we see that many countries are looking for the best ways to operationalize micro-credentials as a documented learning experience. And there are two factors that actually set the scene for their wider use. The first and the most important one is modularization of educational programs. This is a key factor because all European countries seem to engage in some kind of modularization, and this is very prevalent in vocational training and also in higher education. What I mean by that is that traditional VET programs that lead to specific recognized qualifications have become more modular. So they consist of smaller units of learning that are based on learning outcomes, and they use sector standards. This is very important. The second development that paves the way for the incorporation of micro-credentials into a qualification system is opening up let's say, the qualification frameworks to qualifications that are awarded outside formal training in order, for example, to validate non-formally acquired knowledge, skills, and competencies. What happens in Poland in particular? There are three types of qualifications that can be assigned a level, a Polish qualification framework level. And these, let's say, qualifications are included in the IQS, the Integrated Qualification System. Of course, these qualifications are classified according to whether they refer to a specific level of formal education. There are three types of these qualifications. The first type is state-regulated qualifications within the formal system. The second type is state-regulated qualifications outside the formal education system. And the third type is non-regulated qualifications from the private sector, which of course meet some quality criteria. These are market qualifications in Poland, from what we see also in our research on the Polish system. And we see here in this country that there is a specific need for a quality assurance system for awarding bodies of these type of qualifications, which are not, let's say, in the formal system. They are market and state-regulated qualifications. And this is an important element, the quality assurance aspect. Another example is from Croatia. In Croatia, they have developed, let's say, a newly adopted Adult Education Act that has introduced micro-qualifications into their formal VET education system. In essence, this is related to short training programs, including some kind of a professional training that will be awarded with specific learning outcome units. And of course, this will be included in the formal education system. So we see that there are specific processes for micro-credentials or other types of qualifications to be included in the formal system. And overall, we have seen in our Cedefop study that micro-credentials do not, let's say, pose a threat in terms of replacing what is actually existing in the formal system, but they are seen as a complementary tool to traditional education and training, let's say, processes. And in this way, they reinforce employees to respond to labor market needs.
Bardzo dziękuję.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure whether you know that in Poland we have Educational Research Institute that also handles micro-credentials. And this research institute is currently introducing digital credentials, certifying skill acquisition. And it is called a Badge Plus, as we could interpret it. So in Poland, we also care very much about micro-credentials. And we also wish to integrate any credentials of that kind at the European level. As far as I've learned, this integration has not been complete across different countries. And my last question to you. According to studies, do you think that micro-credentials constitute another form of recognizing skills? What is their potential for vocational training for the purposes of the labor market?
Thank you for this very important question. Indeed, from what we have seen also within the study of Cedefop is that in the labor market related education, training and learning, the portability and transferability of micro-credentials, even their currency, as we use this word, largely depend on their visibility and on their perceived value from the citizens of a country. So in this context, micro-credentials can be considered as opening two secret doors. One is related to the fact that they represent, in many cases, a new form of recognition of learning outcomes that are acquired both inside but also outside education institutions. And while the term micro-credentials may be novel, the activities it encompasses may refer to something long-standing. Now, the second door is related to the increased need for more flexible, learner-centered bodies that are actually providing education and training in a lifelong learning perspective. So in this setting, micro-credentials are very important. And what we see in Europe is that there is a need for a European language that would clarify this exchange value that I mentioned for learners, for employees, for educational institutions, of course. And in this way, micro-credentials can be more, let's say, accepted in all European countries. Also, the experience we have seen with market qualifications in Poland in particular show a need for a lot of coordination and engagement of parties of different, let's say, bodies in order to create the basis for value creation. And I'm referring to value with regards to the content design of credentials, to the assessment processes, to the promotion and dissemination of these processes. Of course, transparency and quality seem to be, let's say, the sine qua non condition. And that is why the European Commission has published a recommendation on this important topic of micro-credentials towards this direction. And a very important point I wanted to make is that when we think about industry, it's important to go deeper and analyze what is happening with certifications. And why is that so? Because recognizing industry or professional certifications as part of an educational program actually paves the way for closer cooperation between academia and labor market. For example, then educational programs can be more up to date, and they can actually support learners, and they can meet, of course, the employer's needs. And of course, this can create new relationships, let's say. A very characteristic example is from Finland. In Finland, they have created, let's say, a new relationship between academia and labor market by issuing this hygiene passport. This is a micro-credentials that is already in use in the country's education system. It is designed to promote food safety by mandating food industry workers to prove their knowledge of basic food safety rules. This, let's say, certificate is regulated by the Finnish Food Authority, which authorizes different organizations to provide training and examinations in order to issue this hygiene passport. So this, in a way, shows specific, let's say, examples of cooperation between labor market and academia. Of course, there are different examples from Europe. Another one is from France. There's this digital service provider, which is called Group Orange, that offers online courses on themes related even to social responsibility, to technology, and of course, in order to support even digital equalities or cybersecurity. So I think there is we still have a long way to go with regards to how micro-credentials and formal systems can work together. But I think there is a lot of progress going on in different countries. And for sure, the Polish examples are for us at Cedefop a very interesting case.
Bardzo dziękuję. Thank you very much for sharing this valuable knowledge. And now I would like to ask Paweł Piotrowicz, who represents a big certifying organization, educational organization, how you came up with your idea for education. This is not a core business of the the organ, the body that you represent. Thank you very much for your invitation to this panel. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about over 1,000 branches in the world. What we do is, of course, business, and then somebody might actually think, why do we need this education if we can go without it? Well, 1,000 of branches means a number of laboratories, a lot of experts and specialists, if only possible. I mean, you could say that they've gained their experience, they know everything about hydrogen. They at least inhaled hydrogen, we can say, if not that they've fed themselves on it. So what we have is a mission, and one of part of this mission is education. And this is something that we purposefully do, ladies and gentlemen, as we educate our future clients. In Poland, until recently, we've had all sorts of trainings for experts, for specialists, or general trainings, certified or non-certified trainings. But 3 years ago, I had this honor of preparing an MBA studies curriculum managing hydrogen technologies. I invited my colleagues from Poland and abroad to deliver lectures. One of the universities was brave enough to trust me, and they decided to give it a go. I can see some graduates here in this room, graduates of our MBA course. We can see a few lecturers participating in this conference. Apart from those from Poland, there are also foreign lecturers lecturing during this program, because the program that we offer is really very strong in terms of its content. The curriculum will also be extended onto other countries, which means that our curriculum that we promote is well recognized also within other foreign universities. Why TÜV SÜD has been taking care of it? Well, we've been doing that because, as I've mentioned, we are educating our customers to be, and it is our mission to educate at all levels, educating, knowledge dissemination. We want to transform both the energy sector and fuel sector in terms of knowledge at different levels, starting with primary school system through to secondary schools and students and postgraduate university students. I've mentioned higher education, university education, as something that we started from because that appeared to be the best client. We have over 150 graduates now, and now we are thinking about secondary schools. And again, we have a certain idea how to go about it. We start with a national competition whose goal is to disseminate knowledge and raise awareness of students with this uneasy subject that is physics combined with chemistry. And we have very talented students. We would like to show them. We would like to create proper conditions for them to be able to share their experience, their ideas, their innovations. This is just one of the types of actions and education activities that TÜV SÜD has been preparing. We also offer trainings that are very specified, narrow. And here, when I looked at the presentation delivered by Professor Mariusz Kaczmarek, I've actually discovered that it was one of the very few universities that decided to provide education directed at hydrogen. And it is very important. For over 100 years, we've been using hydrogen in industry. We have very strong entities that have been doing well managing hydrogen. But today, hydrogen is presented in a completely different way. Hydrogen is presented as a fuel, as energy storage. It is present not only in chemical industry. It is important. Wherever we look, we can find some trace of it. We can find some trace of hydrogen technologies. That is why we need many more experts. And teaching in the form represented here by Professor Kaczmarek is important because it provides such experts. TÜV SÜD is just a company that wants to help. And that is why, for its own sake, we started organizing certain education activities because we noticed that there weren't sufficient attempts to do that. They were either too few of them, or they weren't sufficient in terms of their content. But now they are universities that are not afraid and implement their own curricula. If I may add something to it, I just wanted to say that we are not really competing here. What I can offer is a declaration of cooperation with you. I certainly would like to strike this cooperation. What we offer are somewhat different types of educating. Universities, before they produce a graduate, well, it takes at least 7 semesters, 3.5 years. That's the first level. Then when you want to add master's level to it, it takes another 3 semesters. So this process of teaching takes about 5 years. Your industry, your technology is a technology that needs experts now, straight away. So sometimes those very precise, narrowed down trainings that take a short time come as an answer. It is ready to, they are ready to adjust or to reskill someone who already has some competence for them to become an expert in a section of hydrogen-related technology. Right. And another thing that you've also raised, you've mentioned that you educate your future customers or clients. And it is my call to you, ladies and gentlemen, keep on searching for those potential clients. Keep raising awareness, explaining how important and future-oriented hydrogen industry is. We will need experts starting from primary education upwards. We, as the University of Technology, have taken some effort. We have recruited graduates, but if there is no response from the market, then, well, young people are very intelligent. If there is no demand, if there are no job offers in a given job, if there is no good remuneration, then, well, it doesn't pay off to invest. And I wouldn't like our faculty to die out because of lack of potential students. So you can see how we supplement each other, because what we've launched now is an action of encouraging secondary school students to get interested in physics, in hydrogen technologies. If we manage to raise their interest, their curiosity, then we are on the winning side. I'm an example. I was inspired to get interested in physics. So if we manage to do the same, and if we interest young people with hydrogen technology starting from the primary school level, secondary school level, then you will have university students and we will have educated specialists that we will be able to employ for our projects. That's extremely important to really start from scratch. That's a long-term, long-lasting process. The MBA curriculum has been created for the managerial staff to know how to manage hydrogen technologies, starting from the preparatory stage through to investment stage, finishing on operational stage. Hydrogen used to be thought of as something dangerous. Even those who knew about it thought that it was an element of a certain risk. That is why we established the curriculum. That is why we appear at different conferences, get involved in different campaigns. We want to educate our managers as well. And I think it is high time that we also started teaching a young generation of specialist staff. Somebody has to work at the front line, install energy storage, and also put up those electrolyzers and so on. So if we want to have the full value chain ensured, we need to educate those young people from very young ages. Thank you very much. I just wanted to emphasize how important vocational schools have become. So far, we haven't really seen this potential. We haven't realized that we would need many technicians, those who would be skilled in actually putting up all the systems, performing maintenance activities around them. So it is the market, the sector of the market that is building itself up as we look at it. Another question is whether we have teachers who are ready to talk about physics, chemistry, life sciences in such a way as was Paweł's case, so as to inspire. Do we think that we have inspirational teachers? We do have great physics teachers, at least I know those that are really great, really resourceful, and a lot that depends on a person, really. If a teacher has it and feels it is their vocation, they do it because they want to, then definitely they are likely to share and teach physics in a very inspiring way. There's contemporary physics that also covers, for example, the workings of RES, energy storage, or hydrogen technologies. This is becoming something very common. We all know about photovoltaics. We have at least seen installations of this kind. I have faith in teachers. I myself am from a home full of teachers, and my parents always kept on learning. But it is not easy to keep on learning if you have no access to information. I know Google is around and you can Google, you can participate in conferences, but what is important is a well-designed process. Sometimes you have no idea to reach for any publication. You need to be selective about the sources for them to be credible. So it seems to me that a certain curriculum should be created for teaching teachers as well, and at least making it possible for specialists, for experts who are already well-rooted in the industry and who feel like sharing and supporting educators to create certain, let's say, showcase lessons or presenting at least a portion of the knowledge that they have, of course, adjusting it to the demand and capabilities of the students. It is possible to do that, and it has been done. Our ministry provides some financing. There are also some EU-funded initiatives, but somebody has to do that. Somebody has to write a project. And there are colleagues of mine who participate in postgraduate MBA studies. Most of them, if not all of them, do that because they want to share this knowledge so badly. And if they earn something, and they don't earn a lot within our program, they just treat it as a nice bonus. So it is firstly this need to share information that matters. Let's not get hold of it.
Thank you very much. As you've remarked, perhaps these fields of study will be created when we will have true cooperation between science and education. We know, of course, that in Poland we have hydrogen valleys that are being created. Each and every one of them will have different characters. So if we show at this point that we can adapt, that we can meet particular needs that will be needed on the market, then I think we'll have a chance to show that that we can be successful in these technologies. It's like in any business. If there is demand, there is supply. I think the demand is increasing. We are hiring new people, recruiting new people. Of course, the supply must be at an appropriate level too, because education inside a company lasts quite a bit of time, and not every employer can sacrifice time for education. So I have this feeling that, well, of course, energy transformation means also climate protection. Young people also are motivated by that in their selection. They have these values, so perhaps we should keep constructing, keep adapting this to various levels. You're talking about social campaigns. Yes, public campaigns, social campaigns. That's definitely important. When we came up with the idea for this competition for youth, right away we had quite a response, which was great. So it's great to make people aware that young people can also deal with it, that there is a need for that also on this mid-educational level, because you know, what we have now is still not enough. Hopefully the program of studies that the professor here supervises will have proper people who end up there, and such people should have already some education at earlier stages. And public campaigns help here, because they remind, they make people aware that there is something like that it's important. Why it's important? It's important for climate, it's important for energy safety, for energy independence of the country. We've heard about hydrogen valleys, about clusters. we're at a historical moment here when we are going through an energy transformation. Not that many people realize that. So we are moving from centrally controlled energy economy to small energy centers like energy clusters, hydrogen valleys. Of course, various countries do it at various paces. We have quite a lot of work in this in Poland. So these campaigns are very important so that people who hear about hydrogen today do not think about hydrogen through the prism of, I don't know, zeppelins crashing and hydrogen exploding, but about future that is connected with hydrogen, with renewables, and also with SMRs as well in Poland. Thank you very much. Another question to Piotr, Maksyś. Why future professionals are so essential for the development of hydrogen sector? Perhaps a few words why I'm here, not Jarek Filipczyk. So a few words of explanation, because it was supposed to be Jarek Filipczyk who was supposed to be here. However, due to certain unforeseen circumstances, he couldn't be here. And he asked me to fill in for him. So my level of expertise might not be to the standard you expect from Jarek, but I'll try anyway. Question why? Well, as we've said today, we want this education in hydrogen to be from kindergarten to all the way to university level, so that even the smallest kids should be made aware, should be educated, they should be shown, not in the context of explosions, fires, danger, but in the context of clean air, environmental protection, green planet, clean water, because it is in this way that we can speak about hydrogen. So from the youngest age, in some kindergartens, we could slowly share this knowledge that we care about. We all know that the earlier we plant the seed, the better it grows. So I think we should start early and already in kindergartens. And as you've said, we should ask a question: are teachers ready? Do they have sources they can use? Because it's not, automatic. It's not up to the level yet. So we are talking about preparing certain materials, systematic solutions in education, and we're lacking here. Of course, not everywhere, because as you've said before, academic teachers are working with this business. I was invited a number of times to universities, to education institutions to talk about what I do. So I talked about hydrogen clusters, and people were interested. So I would come, I would talk about clusters, I would say that I represent the regional Pomeranian chamber, and I see they don't even know what the economic chambers are, trade chambers are. So it turned out that there is a huge area of knowledge, as clusters, energy clusters, etc., trade chambers, associations, etc., all these institutions connected with renewables, and simply young people are not aware of it very often. They have no idea about all this environment out there. So going back to your question, education starting from very young age and then going higher up, for example, through visits of experts at universities or business practitioners who could come in, give a few lectures, say something interesting. Also on high school level, certain lessons organized. I come from a family of teachers, so I know that my father, for example, in high schools in the past conducted certain additional lessons like that. So the question is, who is to do it? Because it turned out that in some schools it's very difficult, and in others it's just no problem, right? Somebody can come in and do it. And my father was lucky. For example, he cooperated with good school directors, good principals. It was easy to cooperate, to buy additional materials, to educate teachers. and he would come to a high school, being an academic teacher, and promote physics, chemistry, the sciences, everything that we really care about these days. And well, the truth is, most kids don't like these subjects, right? These kind of pure science subjects, they have this bad rap. But so, for example, my father conducted physics lessons in high school. I could see what sort of test results he was getting back. Well, I wanted to ask you about your experiences when it comes to hydrogen projects. I know you're involved in a number of international projects, H2O Global, for example, that you're conducting. If you could tell us a few words. Well, so the question is why we've become engaged in education in international projects when there is so much to do here in the country. But in our case, it's a certain escape forward into the future. But frankly, it's also a step backwards because before we will carry out projects here, we first wanted to learn, wanted to see how such projects, how this hydrogen or zero emission education is done in the West. We wanted to take a look at good practices. And, you know, it's no secret that when it comes to hydrogen technology, we're a decade or so behind, but abroad, a lot is happening there. Our partners, our friends have great technological centers, wonderful entire buildings dedicated to laboratories, startups. Kids can come in, students can come in. Experiments can be conducted even high level and so on. So we don't have that much of that yet. We're just starting out. They do. They've already invested heavily into that infrastructure. So you're looking at the West, you're looking at what the best are doing. For example, I was working with one of the managers who told me, who asked me what to do, not to, not to self-sabotage oneself, not to repeat certain wrong patterns. So I think we should we should base on experience for this. That's why I'm engaged in these projects. We try to cooperate. We try to start cooperation in business and science because there is no full agreement yet here, right? It's getting better. When I was starting work dozen years ago or so, the biggest problem in the special economic zone, the biggest problem was how to start cooperation with science and with academia. Well, it's getting better, but a lot remains to be done. For example, here at the stage, we are sitting here, we have business, we have science. I'm here from the chamber. You, Anya, who have been engaged in promotion of science for years, it shows that there is a will to come to an agreement that a lot of interesting things can be done together. I would add one thing. I was listening to Piotr and today Andrzej Szałek in the morning told us that we have a hydrogen strategy. We have a certain direction which we should go into, right? We also have this executive branch, that sector agreement. But education is a bit behind, so to speak. It's I think we should create a small strategy connected with education and training of starting from elementary school to university level, how to educate, using what method, where to get the money from. And then, as you've told us about these wonderful science centers in the West, where you can see not just how technologies work, certify them, test them, but where you can also lead lectures, lessons, courses for students. We have TÜV SÜD, for example, in the UK, and of course, this requires certain strategy because you need to have money, you need to have an idea how it should work, and you need people. That's perhaps first and foremost who will do it. People who are really passionate about this, yes, because there is a certain way to share knowledge, and it's best done by people who are passionate about it. Yes, I can just confirm that international projects, cooperation is very valuable. It allows us moving forward a few steps ahead. Work in these projects, we can move the technology forward. And in our perspective, we also have the possibility of perhaps passing some of the countries we aspire to. I've shown you examples that our personnel is also making use of that. And perhaps we can generally get ahead of them in the future, who knows? One more question I wanted to ask, one of the more important reasons why we should look in the direction of hydrogen technologies with a lot of hope, aside from the fact that we can impact the climate here and build a sector, because as we know, Poland is the third country in the world when it comes to hydrogen production. Of course, when it comes to gray hydrogen still, but potential is there. So it's not all about Hindenburg or explosions and so on. We're able to deal with these technologies, having some of the best academia, having also international best practice experiences. I think that Poland does have a chance to become a leading producer of, I hope, green hydrogen. We also see how political situation has changed perception of hydrogen, its production, its profitability. So we do hope that those who have really became dedicated to hydrogen, and please believe us, we are still investing in it. We are not, getting that many profits from it. It's our passion, but we see that there is a chance here. There is a huge chance here to create a whole new sector where we can also give something from ourselves and not just drawing from others, but we can also take a look at other processes, the process, for example, of networking, of cooperating. And here I'll refer a bit to this hydrogen agreement because I've been present here right from the beginning. Paweł has also defined those goals in a different group connected with transport, but I have the pleasure to break these strategic goals into points. So to have these 2 gigawatts till 2030, we need to start acting now. So I'd like to tell you that I'm very happy to see how at one table we have self-government units and industry and science and the ministry and NGOs which sit together and talk about the common denominator, which is hydrogen, which is supposed to give us new places of employment. And finally, something I wanted to add for myself, because I work a lot with young people. And for example, at the Rzeszów Polytechnic, and I've asked girl students, women students, because there aren't that many women in this sector. And if you, for example, take a look in Brussels, what these panels look like, you can see that women are at least half. They're at least half made by women who are very active in these topics. So hopefully we have quite a bit of way to go here, but we are making our way. We have more and more to say regarding why this energy sector is so important to us. And believe me that women that go into the energy sector who are at the Rzeszów Polytechnic with me, when I ask a question, why do you want to deal with hydrogen? Why here at the technical university, not the university? They tell me that they want to, kind of handle this traditionally male professions. And on the other hand, they also say that we are aware, we want our planet to last for generations to come, and we have this common good in mind. So I think it's worthwhile to take a look at their point of view. It's not just about money when it comes to selection of future professional place of work. Sometimes, colloquially speaking, certain social sensitivity makes people to think, okay, energy, all right, that means transformation, energy, and perhaps it's worthwhile to go in the direction, but perhaps my voice, my work can make our world much more green for years to come. So I think the industry has to speak about it. It's not about just being doctors, physicians that we need. We need education, we need educational platforms, digital platforms. Because pandemia showed us that we are able to reach larger amounts of people through various channels of distribution. So we have to adapt this offer to age, to specificity, to... And what I miss as a Pole, as a... we have a lot of commercials on TV, you know, pharmaceuticals, banks, but it's too bad we don't talk about climate, the way we promote products that maximize profits of large corporations. But if we had more information about hydrogen helping saving the planet, renewables, that we should have that.
75, Julius Verne, in his book Secret Island, already wrote that water will be the coal of the future. So it was 150 years ago that one would talk about hydrogen. We did not discover it yesterday. Now it's all hands on board. Look at it as the market that is likely to keep on developing. The more energy and determination and will we have to get involved, the more impact we will have, and together we can do more. So that's my call, and I'm opening the discussion. We still have 25 minutes. We can also ask Anastasia about some interesting topics stemming from her experience, and maybe we could learn from. Maybe somebody here in the audience would like to ask a question. I don't think that we've had this formula so far, but maybe if somebody wanted to ask about education, about some new programs or how to join the hydrogen agreement, then please ask your question now or get in touch with me and I will be your guide in the hydrogen world. Just a comment from me. For us as universities, it is important that we get conscious graduates of secondary schools. We really want them to know what hydrogen technologies are. Later on, then it translates onto this success coefficient. Recruitment for the first semester is one thing, but how many graduates we will have after the complete course is a very often completely different story. So very often this rate would be 0 to 5. So we have, say, 100 people recruited for the first term, and then we have just 50 of them graduating. If we work on it already at the primary school level, secondary school level, that we are really talking about protecting the environment, we are talking about clean fuel and so on, that will be a motivation for students to really take up those different topics, mathematics, physics, chemistry. When you think of the first semester of technical studies, these subjects really are very hard and challenging for the students, and it makes many students drop out. So hopefully when we start educating earlier and when we change the way of teaching, so we don't make students learn some formulas by heart, but rather than that, we make it possible for young people to understand the mechanisms and also the motivation behind them, the need and potential use for this knowledge in the future, then it will change the image. Yes, and cooperation of science with business, with industry, is important here as well, so that it is not just the university showing the formula. You need them, of course. This is a necessary background. You need to know the mathematical, physical formulae. It is necessary to know to understand the phenomena around us. This is what, of course, a university gives you, laboratories give you, but it is important to understand what it is for, how we can use it. It is only then that it will make sense. Believe me, I studied at the Warsaw University of Technology, and it was my pleasure to be participating in the laboratory works right from the beginning. And once I understood why I had to master all these theories, when I saw them working, lenses, fiber, optical cables, holograms, when I saw it all working, it only drove me to keep on going. I was a good student because I knew what I was studying for. Right, a question appears. how to induce this interest, how to inspire young people, how to motivate young people. We as Regional Economic Chamber of Pomerania have been involved in a project or program for a few years now, of supporting young students, very often of more technical schools and universities, by opening the door to cooperate with industries. So we offer some internships for them so that they can really test their theoretical knowledge in real companies, so that they can learn guided by their mentors. And we also benefit from this program because some of the interns stay with us at the chamber. Of course, it is a decision of a young person whether they want to stay with us for years or not. But generally speaking, we are the beneficiaries here as well. And the companies within our cluster also get a message from us that, hey, we have interns for you. And apprenticeships are also possible. But what do we want to do as the hydrogen cluster? We also offer some awards. Recently, we granted an award to a team from one of the technical schools that created a floating model of a hybrid ship that was a electric hydrogen hybrid. And we even awarded those young people with money for having produced such a wonderful outcome of their project. We talked about it during one of the conferences. We made it possible for them to present their project and its outcome, show a video. And that was the first step that showed us a sense of this kind of activities. There are those young students who group themselves in teams. A lot depends on teachers as well. There weren't that many projects that we could show, but there were some. Who were these young people motivated by? Well, certainly by their teachers. And as you said, the kids then develop this passion, this sense. This is something that grows in them. And when there is some award and when they can boast about their outcomes during an international conference, that means a lot. So I think that we need many more programs of this kind. It is doable. You've got teachers, you've got students, but how to support this financial arrangement maybe to make it all happen. And I guess that's it. We as a cluster are very eager about supporting this kind of activities. I subscribe to it, but I think that this is just all a point activity, so like a singular activity. It's like, for example, us organizing a competition. But in order for us to be able to talk about education, we need some more harmonized effort, something that will be designed for years. Only then can we talk about a potential success. We have to start from the young kids, kindergarten and so on, showing them how the sun operates, why we have helium and hydrogen. If we start from the basis, from scratch, and we apply the systemic approach, only then can we talk about getting closer to this educational success we want so much. I think we can also ask Anastasia about the issue of educating in her country in terms of hydrogen. That's like an extra question to you, Anastasia.
I don't know whether I actually understood the question, but before I reply to the question, I just wanted to say, because I follow very carefully the whole discussion, it's really very interesting, because I was a teacher before joining Cedefop as an expert, so I totally understand those people who are at the forefront of having young students to motivate, to really make them learn at a lifelong learning perspective. So the comment I wanted to make is that quite often the basic, let's say, problem or issue that we come across is that teachers teach usually subject knowledge. They would be interested in the subject matter, and they would not so much pay attention to what we call not necessarily soft skills. I would call them transversal skills. This is the jargon that we use at Cedefop at a European level, and we make a lot of efforts in order to create a common terminology of what a transversal skill is. For example, other panelists mentioned the idea of learning to learn, learning to work with others, taking leadership. And I think these are the, let's say, competencies that young people need to be taught from a very young age. Because you refer to primary education and secondary education, it would be a bit intimidating for a student to learn they would definitely learn physics and chemistry or all other related subjects, but the way, for example, they would present it in a project or work with other peers to show it in another class, for example, that would make it more meaningful for them. So, and it would make them really think perhaps in the future, what is the necessary skill needed? They wouldn't understand it at that point, but they would definitely learn it. And I think there was a question on hydrogen energy in Greece, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not sure.
O system edukacji. Jak u was
It was about the educational system. What is the education system in Greece about? Are there already some faculties that offer some programs related to teaching about hydrogen? So are you a step ahead? Are you already more advanced than we are in teaching hydrogen?
Sorry for the delay every time. Yeah, I'm sure there are some schools that are teaching, along this specific sector. But I'm not so much aware for Greece, although I'm Greek because it's a sector that I do not have specific, let's say, expertise about. But I know for sure that as a sector overall, my colleagues that are working in the skills department, they are dealing with skills mismatch or skills forecasting. They informed me that, for example, this specific sector of hydrogen is very important. It's actually one of their top lists for green technologies and skill needs. So I think in that sense, the specific skills that are needed to be taught for that sector is what is really very important. We are also doing a very concrete, let's say, work on manufacturing and retail sector and micro-credentials, because this is related again to the study, Cedefop study I mentioned before. And again, there in those two big, let's say, sectors, manufacturing, retail, but for sure also with energy sectors as yours, we see different and sometimes same challenges and issues that need to be addressed. This idea of upskilling, let's say, employees, of teaching more advanced technologies, not necessarily, let's say, delving into the old parameters of the sector as such, but rather being able to deal with the labor market demands. I think the biggest challenge is to really observe closely how the hydrogen sector will evolve, not now, but let's say in 10 years from now, and how students of today can be better equipped to deal with these specific, let's say, demands and advances. But what could be very interesting also for this setting and the organizations that I could share also specific links within the specific sector and the trends that are taking place not only in Poland or in Greece, but in all countries. And I think this can give you more insights on different projects and developments that are taking place.
Bardzo dziękuję.
Thank you very much. May I ask a question here as an audience member, because you said that it was possible for the participants to ask questions. I'm Karolina Chichlińska. I'm a sociologist. I don't know if there are many other sociologists here in the room. Probably not. I don't think that many sociologists represent our sector. I'm a sociologist at Collegium Civitas, among others, and what I'm interested in is the perception of energy transformation, the perception of Poland's decarbonization. So this topic of hydrogen is of interest to me, mostly because I have the sense that education is of utmost importance, but also education, particularly the one you've mentioned, so education at the university level. This is the offer for those who are already convinced that hydrogen is important. People with higher education, particularly men, and studies show differences here between men and women that are significant. So those men who graduated are very much interested, and they accept new technologies. They accept those forms. The same applies to hydrogen technologies, but I think that also we should think about this area of social lack of knowledge, and this lack of knowledge area is quite big. if you look beyond your social bubbles, and if you ask anybody, are you aware of the fact that there are actually hydrogen buses transporting passengers, or have you realized that we have hydrogen power engineering? I think that many people will answer no. You've mentioned this education from kindergarten level to be very important, but I also think that well, let me exemplify it maybe. We should also invite NGOs, for example, waste separation. Some 20 years ago, we didn't know much how to separate waste. Today, I think we know a lot, and I think the same should be done for hydrogen technology. Of course, we don't have that much time because we have the strategy until 2030. At Łukasiewicz's Institute, we now study this process of disinformating. There are some concerns that, I don't know, let's say that we talk about the new media. All new technologies raise this risk of disinformation. When you think about education, about the development of energy transformation with hydrogen, we should also think about counteracting fake news, counteracting disinformation. Another important thing from the point of view of scholarly interest, I'm interested in many energy solutions, and there is a concept for you scholars, it might not be new, but responsible research and innovations, RRI. So this is a concept that is a standard in the European Union, and it is about including two very serious technological processes, and I've participated in all the sessions today, to introduce everybody into those detailed technological aspects of safety, of engineering, of technologies. It is important to invite various social groups. It's important to share information in a very simple way. So it should be simplified, but at the same time, it should be communicated. It should be disseminated. That's one of the ways you can counteract disinformation. But the studies show that we are afraid of sharing detailed technological information because we think, people are going to protest, maybe they will dislike it. From the point of view of the European Commission, and also studies within the European Horizon and European projects, RI is a basis. We need to include various social groups, sharing knowledge with them and thinking of how to educate even better, but not only at the stage of university education. I'd say it is also a challenge, a very important one, but it's easier than educating regular people. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this contribution from the floor. So important, so valuable. Thank you. Yes, what you've mentioned is very important, actually, because no technology stands a chance to succeed without social acceptance. So if we don't talk to people in a simple way about what is going on in hydrogen transformation and what it means, we want to abandon hydrocarbons. Well, we never before have we had this kind of situation with so many changes. Maybe we should think about teaching the media how to talk about safe transformation. It is not just about hydrogen. It is about renewable energy sources and any kind of element that is going to come to the forefront, evolving as we witness it. Technologies keep on developing very fast, so we need to make sure that we keep up with the challenges. How about hydrogen TikTok? Well, maybe that's the way to go. I may only share the example, tell you that the University of Technology does reach for the social acceptance. We have open events at the university that we invite secondary school students to participate in because it is them that we wish to become our students. We also have the Festival of Science. We will try to reactivate it. During the pandemic, well, we had to resign from certain activities. But anyhow, this year, as one of the Fahrenheit University, we want to reactivate the Baltic Science Festival. And starting from this year, we also have an event at the Havelianum Center, and this is Fahrenheit's birthday. And these are the events that we address to the inhabitants of the Tri-City, of the Pomeranian region, where you'll find scientific milieus presenting themselves. You'll find teachers and students working with research groups there, and you can support us because What we offer within our curriculum, not at this new faculty, but at similar ones. Hydrogen technology is a very interdisciplinary area, but what we do is a group project or so that's first stage, first grade of studies, but we have a research project on grade 2 for the student to graduate. Of course, they need to write a thesis and defend it, be science or science thesis, and it is a request for you to inspire us as academic teachers. And within our cooperation, could you offer us some topics that you are interested in? Maybe there are some micro problems that you would like to solve, or maybe you don't have your own R&D teams. Why don't you come to us and tell us? And then we offer our students and our staff to help you resolve these issues within those group projects, research projects, or within the students working on their thesis. Of course, the time for the realization, implementation of such a project is, let's say, 2 semesters. But maybe that's a sufficient time to test a technology or try to implement it in your company. So again, please remember about us if you have interesting topics and you believe that you can share them with students or with Gdańsk University of Technology staff. Please do feel invited to get in touch with us. Still on awareness raising, I would like to draw attention to one thing. Hydrogen buses is something you've mentioned. And actually this awareness is something that will start rising whether we want it or not. There are already buses fueled with hydrogen. You do not have that many fuel stations for hydrogen, but we know that there are more. I think we've got in Koni, we've got one in Wałbrzych, another one in Krakow. So we can see the fuel stations for hydrogen appearing here and there, and they're not broadly available yet, only for some selected group of customers, but there will be more and more of such buses that will have inscriptions, I'm hydrogen bus, I emit vapor, I purify air, and that will also start raising some interest in all of us, because we will start thinking about hydrogen technologies as something safe. If we see that the bus is going and we have no incidents reported, we know that electric vehicles sometimes are involved in some accidents. But that is a different story. Our discussion would have to last longer. Maybe we would meet in some other term to talk about the threats concerning electric cars. Anyhow, those hydrogen buses will also be a way to make us a bit more familiar with those technologies. Plus, some jobs, professions will appear that are non-existent now and that will be necessary, for example, to maintain those buses. The Flow Machinery Institute at the Polish Academy of Sciences wishes to cooperate with science for our great ideas that used to wait on the shelves to really find their way to the daylight and to get implemented. This transformation really calls for cooperation. These are not empty words anymore. I'm very happy that we have started showing tangible projects. I'm not sure whether you know, but Ursula von der Leyen at the recent meeting of the Commission talked about the 3 billion euro for the hydrogen bank that will invest the money into hydrogen-related projects, plus the national recovery plan. Well, we hope that it will materialize itself and we will have access to those millions of euro for the development of hydrogen technologies in the future. This is the main priority of the European Union. So it's not a question if, it's a question how. How are we going to find our place, Poland's place, that will make us stand out against the background of the other European countries? So fingers crossed for all of us. We are nearing the end of this panel, some 30 seconds left. So let me thank you all for your participation. Thank you very much. I would like to thank Anastasia for her very interesting contributions, for sharing the knowledge that we got straight from the European Commission. And I would like to thank you, gentlemen here. I would like to thank Professor, thank you, Paweł, thank you, Piotr, and thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Jesteśmy największą metropolią w Polsce Północnej. Jesteśmy otwarci na to, co nowe. Jesteśmy świetnym miejscem do życia. Jesteśmy Trójmiastem i dlatego zawsze będziemy dbać bardziej.
Korki na wszystkich drogach dojazdowych do Trójmiasta już dawno przekroczyły akceptowalny poziom. Dlatego samorząd województwa pomorskiego uruchomił nową linię kolejową łączącą metropolię trójmiejską z Kaszubami. Dzięki podróży pociągiem tysiące osób może szybciej i wygodniej dojechać do pracy, szkoły lub na zakupy, a potem wrócić do domu. Nie trać czasu i pieniędzy w korkach. Podróżuj szybko i wygodnie koleją. Do pracy, do szkoły, na zakupy.
I know